Hello, welcome back to Over the Line Football. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the news that Aston Villa's captain Jack Grealish might be becoming the Premier League's most expensive player ever, joining Manchester City this summer. So, it has been quite a hectic summer window so far. You know, we've already had deals, big deals. Jadon Sancho and probably Varane are the two that kind of spring to mind. But this obviously would eclipse it in terms of price, in terms of probably stature. This is obviously one of England's best players, one of the best in terms of even statistics wise, creative midfielders in probably world football at the moment. You know, you only have to look at all the sort of clamour for him starting at England to realise how good he is. Obviously the news is that City have put in £100 million bid, whether that is to trigger a release clause or that is a bid just to Villa, it'll be accepted either way. Obviously from when the time we're recording, the news is that he's expected to join, but of course it's probably a bit of a tough decision for Jack to do, considering obviously Villa's his boyhood club. So you know we could be making all this video how Jack Grealish could fit into Manchester City, and you know he turns around and just goes, you know what, I don't fancy it. It's some sort of like Gerrard-esque U-turn, but we're going to discuss it anyway. Initial thoughts maybe to just sort of kick it off on the whole sort of saga.
I'm not surprised that you want to obviously made the bid. I know you've obviously been with him for the whole of the Euros now that I know specifically. We all know his quality. He's been out in the Premier League for probably nearly about 10 years now from when he's been since the debut when he's played in the Premier League and the Championship. Yeah. And these past 2 or 3 years, he's just improved massively. I think this season he's got the most fouls won in the Premier League.
His metrics are up there with some of the best.
The amount of time, it's so weird how you can. I sound like weird. You can run like everyone else, perhaps, and make the same runs as everyone else, but you can still win more fouls and create those more chances of players that you wouldn't normally get from out of every player. Yeah. Now, obviously, we'll say a lot of people say, why do you Jack Grealish for all these players here? Very good for Man City. So we might as well talk about who you might be leaving Man City if in the case that Jack Grealish deal goes through. Who do you think? Is it, do you reckon Bernardo Silva might leave? Is it Sterling? Who do you reckon they'll leave?
Well, obviously the benefit that Grealish has and the benefit Guardiola will have with having Jack Grealish is he's a very versatile player. He could probably play off either wing, and he probably can play in the sort of 8, 8, 10, whatever. So obviously these opportunities for him to play alongside that, and then of course like the attacking plays in them areas, you're looking at Sterling, Mahrez, Torres, and then Gundogan and De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. So obviously De Bruyne is dead cert in the team every week. Yes. So obviously Grealish will be battling it out. Looks like with Gundogan, it does look like Bernardo Silva maybe leaving. Obviously all the Portuguese lads are back for City in training, whereas Bernardo's like, he looks like he's been given some sort of extended leave. Maybe it is to sort it out. Obviously, it kind of was muted around the Euros. Obviously, all the focus was on the Euros. That Bernardo just doesn't like Manchester, England. He just doesn't like the lifestyle in England. You know, obviously, to be fair to him, he's 2 of the 4 years he's been at Manchester City. He's spent in lockdown, no family, just in a flat in Manchester on his own. I can understand why he might want to go back to a nice hot country with his family. Obviously, the rumours are that he wants to go back to Iberia, so Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, that sort of side. Obviously, the problem is that there's a lot of teams who just can't afford to pay for players at the moment. So I assume, like Barcelona. So I assume he's just been given more time. So for Jack Grealish, that'll be the area. I think he'll look to be playing alongside De Bruyne and fighting with Gundogan for that second position. But as well as that, of course, there's positions up in that front three if needed. Obviously, Foden looks to have that left side locked down as much as possible at the moment. Sterling obviously is going to try and fight his way back into the other side, and then into the side, and then the other side they've got Mahrez and Torres. So you can say Man City have got quite a lot of options. So yeah, he's obviously a fantastic player. What do you think about the price? Do you think it's about right for a player?
I was about to ask you the same question. It's just weird looking back and looking at a player who played in the Premier League, yes, but then we look at what he's won overall. You can compare it to Harry Kane and whatnot as well. He's obviously not won anything, but I have to say, Jack Grealish never won anything before. He's been in the Premier League for 5 years. He's never got any European spots. Never played European football ever. and then you're paying 100 million for a lad based off perhaps one really good season in the Premier League and very good Euros, perhaps. But I don't think that's the case. I think 100 million is right for Jack Grealish. I'd be personally happy if I was a fan of a club pay 100 million personally for Jack Grealish.
I mean, what you've got to establish is this is what Villa valued him at, and not what City.
Well, if this is a release clause, perhaps, then that's fair enough.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it was quite funny. I saw a tweet yesterday that 2 years ago, pretty much to the day, I think Spurs bidded 5 million plus Josh Onoma for Jack Grealish. And then, obviously, in an alternate universe, with the goal line technology working properly, Villa are down, and Jack Grealish is probably at Man United. They stayed up. Villa convinced Grealish to give him another year, signed a new contract to stop United from triggering any sort of clause. And you know, he's given him a year. I think this is how it's gone, and I think he must have had either a release clause or he's had a gentleman's agreement with Villa that if they don't get into a European spot, that he is allowed to go to a club in Europe if they come in for him and are right for him. And obviously the fee is the fee. What makes me so convinced that City think he's the calibre of player to play in such a star-studded team is they've never paid this much. Of course, City spend a lot of money in the transfer window. I think he's going
to be like nearly 900 million now. It's having 900 or 600 million that they've got to spend on Man City if this deal goes through.
But it's the City have never broke the transfer record for a player. They did Premier League transfer record, so this would be the first one. The first time they've done it, so they must be entirely convinced, or Pep Guardiola must be entirely convinced that he's good enough to play at the top level, is what I'd say. But Grealish, obviously, like we said, there's potential. Obviously, he turns around. I think he's due back on Monday, so there's potentially comes back and he's got to talk with his family, who I assume are all Villa fans as well. And it's decided that he wants to stay, which obviously would be completely understandable as a Villa fan. I always said if roles reversed and Foden wanted to move on, we'd feel exactly the same way. Obviously the attraction for Grealish is endless at City. You got working with one of the best managers ever, alongside some of the best players in the world. He constantly talks about De Bruyne being his idol. Playing alongside him would probably be interesting enough for him. And then obviously European football's the big one. The reports the other day was that he watched the quarter-final between City and Dortmund and was jealous of how well Bellingham and Foden were in them games. So it is probably the right time for him to move 25 years ago, would you say?
Sounds like he can't wait to get set up at Man City. Sounds like what you're saying anyway.
Well, I'm saying that is the pull. That is the thing that probably is attracting Grealish to City. You're not going to know until a report breaks this that he is going to be having a medical or something like that, because it is completely on him.
Obviously, was it James Pearce? Was that right? James Pearce on the Telegraph? Is that the guy?
John Pearce.
John Pearce. It's not. I don't see James Pearce. He said it's going to be medical on Monday. He says.
Yeah, that's expected. So I think it is the sort of. I think Grealish will communicate over the weekend his decision. I can't see him showing up at Villa Park and going, "Yeah, lads, I think I'm off."
But in terms of Aston Villa as well, it'd be a hell of a ballsy move to reject 100 million for one of their players.
Well, they're not going to.
No. But I'm saying if you're Aston Villa fan now, would you try? If you reject this bid, if you do reject this bid, do you see Man City going in again, perhaps?
Well, the Sky Sports are saying this morning that they've accepted the bid.
Right.
But I think I can't see personally City putting in a bid like this if the player hasn't communicated that he would entertain a move.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It's just really silly money doing this.
There is obviously City bid. I don't know. City bidded 100 million for Kane at the start of the window, that officially bid, and it was rejected straight away. It was sort of testing the waters type of thing. Obviously, Kane wants to move to City still as well. Obviously, you've still got that to come, bloody hell. So that, but I feel like with this one, the way the rumours have kind of panned out and the way the story's gone on, I can't see City have bidding this much or triggering a release clause without the player communicating that he's decided he wants to move, unless it is that he doesn't have a release clause and it is City purely bidding 100 million to show Grealish how seriously interested they are. So it's one that's up in the air. I don't want to kind of say that I'm entirely convinced about him joining, because I can understand like his sort of affiliation to Villa. If he was playing for Leicester or Newcastle, or, someone he doesn't support, it's 100% happening. I just think Villa having no European football whatsoever, they've got good owners. Like, they've got rich owners. They made fantastic signings so far this summer. Emi Buendia off at it.
Yes, great player. Yeah,
obviously beat Arsenal to the signing that. They bidded for Smith Rowe earlier in the summer.
Yeah.
They've been a bit low ball with some of the bids, like the one for James Ward-Prowse the other day, the 25 million one that was rejected by Southampton virtually straight away. I thought it was a bit disrespectful.
Well, people are saying that might be because they're trying to do that for the Grealish, but then David Olsen was saying that's completely unrelated to Jack Grealish.
Yeah,
which is fair enough. But
it's unrelated, but what they would be trying to show is that, look, we're serious. We want to try and build a squad around you. I think that is the sort of, there is a contract offer there for Grealish if he turns around over the weekend or on Monday and goes, look, I feel like I could stay and sort of build my career here instead of going to a...
Do you think he starts for Man City?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
so what formation? So say what's the formation? If you're Pep Guardiola,
it's 4-3-3.
It's 4-3-3. Where's he fit in the 4-3-3 for you?
Next to De Bruyne in the centre midfield.
Right. So
and it'd be Foden, Mahrez, and then
not Torres. You still think Mahrez better than Torres? I think Torres might be a breakthrough season for City this season.
Possibly. I don't know. We play in so much competitions. Like we were speaking yesterday. 64. We could have played in 64 potential games last season. We played in 63. The only one we missed out on was the FA Cup final. Yeah. So there is, and Mahrez could play Barnsley tonight in the pre-season friendly when we're recording this and turns up with an injury. What I mean? It's gonna happen. I think we were okay with injuries in the large part last season. With restrictions opening, there's more chance of players catching COVID, no matter if you've got the injections or not. So there's chances of them being out for extended periods of time, even if they're like close contacts and stuff. So there's going to be massive rotation. You know what Guardiola's like. I know FPL players hate him because of his sort of lottery of who to pick. But City, obviously, I've looked at it, and maybe the Grealish move was forced by Bernardo Silva telling City that he wants to leave. They didn't want to leave themselves short in a position, which makes me feel like City will still try and go and get a striker. Again, going back to Torres, if City don't manage to get hold of Kane, and I do feel like it's Kane or bust for City this season in terms of who they want to sign, I don't think they have a backup option. Then Jesus obviously massively relied upon, and I think Torres would move into a striker position then, like he has been doing.
You don't think Sterling, mate?
Sterling, well, what I'm saying is a lot of people would have to be used for a false nine, so there is still options. Jack Grealish, possibly.
But last season as well, you were using a lot of time players in that, because obviously Gray wasn't fit half the season. No. Jesus was a little bit injured as well, so you used a lot of players.
It worked, but it felt like such a short-term fix. It didn't feel like Guardiola liked it that much. It was new, and it was it was pretty inventive, and obviously it allowed Cancelo to play a lot better than he had been doing, and there's a lot of play. Gundogan obviously played really well in that sort of formation. So yeah, there's potential with the squad and how versatile they are, and just adding Jack Grealish into that is just another one of them players who can play in a couple of positions. He's going to win you fouls in and around the box. I mean, look, if City get Grealish and Kane, if you can just have the combination of Grealish winning penalties and Kane taking them, you could be all right.
I actually felt that, yeah.
So just look, he's going to win you a lot of fouls in dangerous areas and the edge of the box. He's good in tight spaces. He's a good passer of the ball. And look, he's not as good as Ollie Watkins and a few of the Villa forwards are. You're going to be feeding higher quality of players. He'll have already good link up with Raz from England and Phil.
Foden,
so
Stones as well there.
Yeah. So all in all, of course the fee is humongous, and it's it eclipses Pogba's, which was 89 million, wasn't it, from Juventus to Manchester United. So.
What was Sancho's though?
Sancho's 70. I mean, United are top four. United are the top four, aren't they?
I thought Sancho was more than 70 million.
70 odd million. So 70 odd million. I know the top four is him, Maguire, Pogba, and Lukaku. Also United. Okay.
So overall, what do you think the transfer likability that'll go to Manchester City? So
as in,
do you think he got to Messi out of 10? What do you think he will?
I think it is. I think it's 9.
9, right?
I think it's 9 because I think everything is in place. And I just think that City wouldn't have put a bid in if Grealish wouldn't have communicated to him, look, I will move. So I think it is going to happen. There's obviously, the reason I'm not going to go for like 10 out of 10 is this still obviously potentially turns around over the weekend or on Monday and just goes, look, I've had a chat with my family, I've decided I want to, be a sort of one club man.
That's the case, and that's fair enough. On that note.
Yeah, thank you for watching. As usual, we're coming up to the start of the new season, so we will be doing our predictions very shortly for that. We will get them horrendously wrong like we did in the Euros. So keep your eyes peeled, and we will see you on the next video.
See you later.